At the end of this chapter, you'll be able to describe the purpose and layout of the communication system, explain the operation of the communication system main components, identify and explain the controls associated with the communication system, identify and explain the indications and enunciators associated with the communication system. The communication system provides the following functions: radio communication between the aircraft and ground stations, interphone communication, passenger address system, distribution of aural alerts generated by the MFC and the EGPWS to the loudspeakers only. In addition, the communication system includes 2 ATC transponders and an emergency locator transmitter, ELT. The main components of the communication system are the crew audio control panels and the remote control audio unit, RCAU. The communication system has the following controls in the cockpit: 2 audio control panels located on the center pedestal, 2 VHF control boxes located on the center pedestal, 1 ATC control box located on the center pedestal, 1 push-to-talk selector located on the outboard horn of each control wheel, 1 control switch on the nose wheel steering, 2 loudspeaker volume control knobs, 1 located on each side panel, 2 audio select push buttons, 1 located on each side panel, 2 headset boom set panels, 1 located on the electronic rack wall behind the captain's seat, and the second one located on the cockpit ceiling above the co-pilot's seat. 2 hand microphone panels, 1 located below each side panel. 1 ELT control panel located on the overhead panel. 1 attendant call push button and 1 mechanic call push button on the overhead panel. The VHF communication system has 2 separate systems. Each system has its own antenna and transceiver, and each transceiver is controlled by its own control box. The transceiver provides communications on more than 2,000 channels from 118 to 136.975 MHz with 8.33 kHz spacing. VHF radios capable of 8.33 kHz spacing are mandatory above flight level 195 since the year 2007. In case of an audio control panel loss, 2 audio select push buttons provide for an alternate means of selecting VHF on each side. In order to communicate, the flight crew member shall select on the respective audio control panel the required transmission key and adjust the reception volume on the volume control knob. The transmission may be performed by using a hand microphone with an integrated push-to-talk PTT push button, or via the boom set microphone or the oxygen mask microphone, together with the PTT on the control wheel, or the radio interphone selector in the audio control panel set to position RAD, or the switch located on the nose wheel steering control handle, available only for the left seat pilot. Once the oxygen mask is removed from the respective container, it automatically transfers the boom set transmissions to the oxygen mask microphone. The transmission with the hand microphone remains available and the radio reception is not affected. The Interphone system is used for communication between the cockpit, cabin, and ground crew. It allows the communication between the cockpit crew stations, the cockpit crew and the cabin attendant station, the cockpit crew and the ground crew stations at the hydraulic bay, the ground electric power receptacle, and the unpressurized bay in the rear fuselage. The passenger address system is used by the cockpit crew and the cabin attendants to make announcements to the passengers. The system also generates a single chime sound in the cabin when the no smoking, fasten seatbelt signs are turned on. The passenger address system is connected to the RCAU that allows the cockpit crew to make announcements to the passengers when the PA key is selected on the audio control panel, and the cabin attendant handset. The following visual and oral alert associated with the communication system is provided in case of an RCAU processing board failure or power loss. The master caution is activated. A single chime will sound. The amber audio light on the CAP illuminates, and the amber audio select fault light on the associated side panel illuminates. When using the Interphone system, and in order to interconnect the cockpit with the other stations when using a hand microphone, the following has to be done. Depress the Interphone transmission key on the audio control panel. To call the cabin attendant from the cockpit, the attendant push button on the overhead panel has to be depressed. In case of a call to the cockpit from the ground crew, the mechanic call push button has to be depressed. The 3-position push-to-talk selector on each control wheel directs transmissions when using the boom set or oxygen mask microphones. It has the following functions. When pushed to the forward interphone position, it allows the transmission on the respective flight interphone. Since it is spring-loaded to neutral, it will automatically stop the transmission when released. Note that in this case, the interphone transmission key on the audio control panel does not need to be used. When the push-to-talk selector is in the central position, no transmission is possible from the boom set or oxygen mask microphones. But reception is normal and the hand microphones can be used for transmission. When the push-to-talk selector is pushed to the backward radio position, the boom set or oxygen mask microphones are connected for transmission on the selected communication radio. The push-to-talk switch, located on the nose wheel steering control, when pressed, can also be used to connect the boom set or oxygen mask microphones for transmission on the selected communication radio. The headset, boom set, and hand microphone panels are used to connect headset, boom set, and a hand microphone on each side. Note, the headset, boom set panel on the captain's side also allows the connection of a headset, boom set for the observer occupying the jump seat. The 2 loudspeaker volume control knobs are used to adjust the volume of each of the 2 cockpit loudspeakers. Observe that in case of an oral alert, the normal volume is always available regardless of knob position, and that during any transmission the volume of both loudspeakers is muted. Important note: to establish communication between the pilots while using the oxygen masks, the loudspeaker volume control knobs shall not be set to minimum, since what's said by one pilot in the oxygen mask microphone will be heard by the other pilot on his on-side loudspeaker. The 2 audio select push buttons are used to control the functions of the associated RCAU processing board. With the buttons dark and in their normal depressed position, the RCAU functions normally. In the case of a power loss or if a processing board failure has been detected on the associated RCAU, the amber fault light illuminates and the CCAS is activated. In such case, alternate has to be selected by releasing the respective audio select push button. The affected crew station will then be directly connected to VHF 1 if the captain station is affected, VHF 2 if the first officer station is affected. The volume can then be adjusted by turning the affected loudspeaker volume control knob. Note that on the affected side, the PA, interphone, and the other VHF can no longer be used. The 14 volume control knobs are used to adjust the reception volume for the associated communication or navigation facility. By turning the respective knob clockwise, the volume is increased from mute to maximum volume. Several volume control knobs can be engaged at the same time. The voice-only key illuminates amber when depressed and is used to inhibit the reception of the navigation station's identification audio signal. The 6 transmission keys are used to select between the individual communication facilities for transmission. When selected, they illuminate white, and by the activation of an on-side microphone, the applicable communication facility can then be used for transmission. The keys are interlocked, and only one key can be engaged at a time. As soon as a facility is selected, the previously selected one will be deactivated. The intercom radio selector is used to select the transmission mode when using the boom set or oxygen mask microphones. It has the following functions and positions. Interphone. This is the hot mic position, and the interphone is always operative between the crew stations. Other transmissions require the selection of a transmission key and use of the PTT push button. Neutral. In this position, only the hand mic is usable, provided a transmission key is selected. Radio. This is a spring-loaded position where the boom set and oxygen mask microphones are connected for transmission without use of the PTT push button. To transmit, it is necessary to manually keep the selector into the radio position, and once the selector is released, it automatically returns to neutral. In this lesson, you'll learn to use the VHF control box. Let's start with the on-off knob. Once the knob is set to on, the system is turned on, and a brief tone is normally heard, indicating that the system is working properly. If the tone continues after the VHF control box is on, there's a memory defect and the transceiver can neither receive nor transmit. If 2 short 800 Hz tones are heard, the transceiver has detected an internal fault and will not function properly. By switching the on-off knob to the squelch-off position, the receiver disables the receiver squelch circuit. Turning the knob to the off position switches the system off. The channel display consists of 2 lines. The preset frequency is displayed on the bottom line, and the active frequency is displayed on the top line. The channel selector knobs in normal operation change the preset frequency. The larger or outer knob changes the numbers on the left of the decimal point, while the smaller or inner knob sets the numbers on the right of the decimal point. Below the channel display, 3 types of messages can appear on the annunciator's location. Memory. If a frequency stored in the memory channels is displayed on the second line. Remote, if the VHF is tuned remotely. And transmit, which illuminates when the VHF is transmitting. The self-test is initiated by pressing and holding the test push button. Observe that the active and preset frequency display intensity modulates from minimum to maximum during the self-test. A successfully completed test will take about 5 seconds. In the upper line, a sequence of dashes is displayed, and in the lower line, a 2-digit code appears. If the system is working properly, the lower frequency window displays 00. When another code is shown, a system failure has been detected. The VHF control box is also fitted with an automatic light sensor to control display brightness. Usually there are 2 frequencies displayed: the active frequency in the upper line and the preset frequency in the lower line. Toggling the 3-position spring-loaded transfer memory switch to the transfer position will cause the preset and active frequencies to trade places, causing the preset frequency to become active. By momentarily setting the transfer memory switch to the memory position, one of the 6 possible memorized frequencies is displayed in the preset frequency display. At the same time, the memory enunciator comes on. Successive pushes to the memory position selects the next memory channel. Pressing the active push button for approximately 2 seconds allows the pilot to directly change the active frequency. Observe that the preset frequency line shows a sequence of dashes. Pressing the active push button again returns the channel display to its normal display mode. The store button is used to memorize a preset frequency. Up to 6 frequencies can be stored and are retained in the memory even if the system is turned off. Once you've set the desired frequency in the preset channel display, push the Store button. Observe that the active frequency display shows the memory channel number available for storing the frequency. The displayed memory channel number can be manually changed by repeatedly toggling the transfer memory switch to the memory position. Once the desired memory channel number is displayed, press the Store button again to store the frequency. Note that changing the memory channel number must be done within 5 seconds after pushing the Store push button for the first time. The ATC control box can be viewed in 2 parts for a better understanding. The lower half contains the power and mode rotary switch, the code select knobs, the test button, the identification button, the preset button, and a light sensor. The upper half contains the code display window and a switch to select either of the 2 transponders that is controlled by the control box. In the code display window, some enunciators can appear. TX indicates that the transponder is replying to an interrogation. ID indicates that the transponder is transmitting the identification signal. ACT is displayed during code changes and flashes when the actual reply code is different than the code shown in the code display. The power and mode rotary switch has the identified positions off, standby, on to switch on mode alpha, altitude to switch on modes alpha and Charlie, and FID to select and display the flight identification transmitted to the air traffic control services. The code select knobs allow the pilots to set the 4 digits transponder codes and the flight identification. When setting the transponder code, the outer, larger knob selects the first 2 digits on the left in a range from 0 to 77. And the inner or smaller knob selects the last 2 digits on the right, also in a range from 00 to 77. Once you select position FID with the Mode Select knob, the control box displays 2 lines. In the upper line, the company 3 letters code is selected, and in the lower line, the 4 digits flight number. By rotating the outer or larger code selector knob, you scroll through the fields which blink once selected. The inner or smaller code selector knob selects numbers or letters. Once the selection is made, the Mode Select knob has to be set to Alt again. The information is then saved. The Preset push button is used to store and recall a preset code. Pushing and holding the preset button while selecting a code will store the code. Momentarily pressing the preset button will recall the stored code. Momentarily pressing the identification button causes the transponder to transmit the aircraft identification signal. The Test push button provides a test of the transponder system in the same way as explained for the VHF radios. The ATC control box is also fitted with a light sensor to automatically adjust the display intensity. The Emergency Locator Transmitter, ELT, is located in the cabin ceiling between the passenger entry door and the toilet door, and its antenna is located in the fairing ahead of the stabilizer fin. The ELT system has its own battery, and if in auto mode, the system is automatically activated in case of a deceleration exceeding 5G. The transmission will be made on 121.5 MHz, 243 MHz, and 406 MHz. The ELT control panel is located on the overhead panel. It contains a transmit alert light, a manual auto switch, and an auto test and reset push button.